Okay, pals. After we watch the videos one more time, I feel it's necessary for to confess that I really messed up in the previous lesson. As you recall, at the start of the previous lesson, I claimed that this wasn't an ethics lecture, therefore, we wouldn't require a very advanced base. But alas, despite my assumptions, and became evident during the conversations that we were required more than a basic foundation. And once I had this realization, the idea of watching these two videos popped into my mind. But before we kick off the session, it would be super helpful to go over the meaning of and pronunciation of a few words from the videos because these words are hard to use in modern English. The three of those terms are respectively orators, interlocutors, and cyrenaics. The first one is orators. Orators, which literally means speakers, were professional speakers at ancient assemblies. They were also showing some solid rhetorical skills to convince, influence, and lead the people. The second term is the interlocutor. Interlocutors refers to the people who engage in a conversation with each other. One great example of this is Socrates and the people he debated with, like Mimino, Callicles, Gorgias, and others. And finally, Cyrenaics. Cyrenaics was a radical Socratic school. Supporters of this school thought that physical pleasure or hedonism was the ultimate good, and only subjective experiences were real. Additionally, the school's name came from Cyrenaica, a historic Greek colonial city in modern-day Libya, where it first time emerged. All right, I think we can jump back into our lesson after this quick review. Sound good? All right. Dilek, what are your thoughts on Protagoras' concept of man is the measure of all things, namely Homo mensura? I'm really interested in hearing what you think about it. And additionally, how far can we apply this approach in the social sciences? According to what I understand from your boss, this viewpoint doesn't really fit with the social sciences because, from your perspective, the social sciences, like all branches of science, seek certainty, or to put it simply, the truth. Am I wrong? That's great. Thank you so much for your contribution, Dilek. Yes. Does anyone else wish to share their thoughts? Yes, Beza. Please continue. That's an interesting perspective, Beza. So, guess what? Maybe you might have a point. I mean, of course, what would it to do us to reignite a debate that was settled a long time ago? Even back in Socrates' days, wasn't it? Honestly, I need to share a different perspective here, especially when it comes to your wheel space. Sorry. And honestly, again, I feel like this topic is far from over. In fact, it is really just beginning. Last semester, we ended up discussing Thomas Kuhn and his paradigm shift theory, even though it really wasn't our responsibility again. And so, what was this theory briefly? It was claiming that scientific revolutions shake up the core beliefs of a particular science or discipline. Am I wrong? Hold on a second. Wasn't Kuhn discussing revolutions? I mean, let me put that another way, please. He wasn't just talking about one completed revolution. He was actually referring to a whole series of revolutions that took place one after the other. Let's take a look at the official narrative now. The split between natural science and philosophy kicked off with Newton's Philosophia Naturalis Principia Mathematica in 1687 and continued until the early 19th century. After that, this philosophy faced significant limitations and mostly stick to the realm of metaphysics since it wasn't needed as much anymore. That was because we now had certainties grounded on experiment and observations in the natural sciences. So, folks, do you think such an explanation, or rather a proposition like this, is still relevant today? If that's the case, let's take a look at how the facts we're about to discuss really fit into these assumptions of certainty. First off, let's chat about Einsteinian physics. It's definitely taken the lead over the Newtonian physics, hasn't it? But here's the interesting part. Thanks to EPR paradox, even Einstein's theories are getting a bit of a shake-up from the quantum physics. Isn't that wild? So, folks, what happened to all those assumptions that were so highly prized and tied to certainty? Where have they gone? How about we put all that on hold for a moment and check out some straightforward science examples. You all know it. Water boils at 100 degrees, but that's only the case at sea level. If you climb to the top of Mount Everest, water boils at much lower temperature, around 70. Why is that? Because the air pressure is lower at higher altitudes. In a similar way, the force of gravity isn't quite the same all over the Earth. It's slightly stronger at the poles, and weaker at the equator. This means even basic scientific facts like boiling points or your weight can change depending on where you are. So, what's the point? I mean, where have you come now? Even the certainties in science depend on context and perspective, just like in philosophy. Our knowledge actually is shaped by where we stand, literally and metaphorically. Now, let's shift from theory to observation. For a moment, I'd like for everyone to look at the garden. Theoretically, we are all observing the same garden at the same time and from the same classroom, correct? And right now, some folks across the garden are probably checking out the same garden just from a different angle or perspective as they glance out their own classroom window, right? Well, actually, even though we are in the same classroom, we can't really say we are seeing the garden from the same angle. For example, the way we sit can really change how we see the things. Isn't that so? So, even here, we can't really talk about absolute certainty or homogeneity. So, when you start talking about this, like I asked in the last lesson, using the character Gregory Malakov as a reference, think about how much our identity is shaped by being part of a community or standing against it. Also, consider how these feelings of belonging or opposition influence how we see our actions as right or wrong, just or unjust, good or bad. And I encourage you to keep this mind palace in your thoughts. Well, you may be wondering about which palace of the mind of I'm talking about right now. Absolutely, you hit the nail. All right. So I am going to explain this in just a bit. And that's exactly what I want to share or offer as a mind palace. Now, I want you all to imagine in your minds every window, every seating arrangement, and each of our individual backgrounds in this classroom represent entirely different variables and countless crossroads. And if we think of Malakov's conclusions and actions as this classroom's door, which I am encouraging you to picture just like this, Let's give it a shot and see what's waiting for us behind it. Shall we go for it?